Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Sunday, January 12th, 2020 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi and our energy mantra for today is my responsibility is my personal revolution. And we are in the midst of the peak of this Saturn, Pluto, et al. Conjunction. This is arguably one of the biggest astrological events of our lifetime. It definitely has some strong repercussions. But when I think about it, how do we affect change? How do we utilize these energies? It really comes down to the minute details. It comes down to the decisions, that's hard to say all of a sudden, the decisions that you are making on a day-to-day basis. It comes down to where you are the authority in your life, taking that responsibility seriously and lining up with what is true for your soul. So let's break this day down a little bit astro-wise, and then we'll break it down to the nuts and bolts, to the planets and all that. We have actually Mercury in the mix of this. So we have Mercury conjunct Saturn. That conjunction happens at 1:51 a.m. Then we have Mercury conjunct Pluto. That is 2:14 a.m. And then we have the peak of our Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Now let's be fair. They have been at 22 degrees for the last several days, hanging out together. But this is when it's like, okay, we're right on top of each other. These energies are at their peak of loudness energetically that they're emitting to us that is causing all the feels that we are feeling. So that the peak of that conjunction happens at 8:58 a.m. And these are all Pacific time. So Mercury in the mix is really interesting. Mercury is stimulating the mind. And I gotta say, the top of the card, we have the burden. That's one of the things that may be coming up. Both Saturn and Pluto can instigate quite a bit of fear. And so, and looking at the stuff going on in the world right now, that can instigate quite a bit of fear. But this is not about your fears. This is really not about that. Although there may be some calls to face some of the fears that are coming up in the manner of responsibility. But this isn't about letting the fears win. This isn't about giving too much attention to the fears. This is not about that. It is about bringing complete consciousness, complete awareness to your personal process and your responsibility of your personal revolution, those personal choices, the personal steps that you are being called to take at this time. That's where the focus needs to go. And yes, like I said, some fears may come up, but this isn't the time to ostrich. Saturn represents our ultimate purpose. So Saturn's a very important energy for us to look at. Causing earthquakes, Joe. Causing earthquakes. Sorry. So Saturn, it also has this karmic/dharmic interlocking energy. There are karmic lessons, good or bad, that we have to face. And we face them on the path to walking our personal dharma, the purpose that we came here, the mission we came here to embody, complete, work on. And so that's very important in and through this. The Pluto energy is very interesting in this. The Pluto energy can be very polarizing. I always say Pluto energy, it's the lightest light, it's the darkest dark. Pluto is definitely where some of those shadows, especially around some of the karma stuff, Pluto energy is where those shadows can, or fears can surface. Pluto energy, like I said, it's very polarizing. it can show us where we're still carrying the victim, where we're still not ready to step up. And Pluto's like, I'm pushing you off. You got to walk the plank. You got to jump off the diving board. You can't stand there not ready anymore. This cycle ends now. Begin new cycle. Pluto is also empowerment. Pluto is often the transformation process that takes us away from the victim, past the fears, into our personal empowerment. So as they are working very strongly together, holy moly, we have this amazing chance for integration to take a step towards our next highest level, our next best self. We have an opportunity to let our responsibility be our personal revolution. But the responsibility is asking you, what choices are you making? Where are you getting stuck in that same old routine? We face that a lot this week with that South Node Jupiter energy. And even though they're not conjunct anymore, that is still working us in and through this. So there's this opportunity to jump past these energies. It really is, to me, a bit of a quantum leap for us all to some extent that's happening with this. But our awareness, our participation, it is required in this. Our responsibility. How are you responding? And this goes for everything. What are the groceries that you are buying? What are you watching on the TV? Who are you interacting with? How are you spending your time? And this isn't about shame. It's about finding what your alignment is so that you commit, another Saturn word, commit to that dharmic process. You commit to your personal empowerment. You notice, yes, this lifts me up. Oh, this sinks me into this spiral. So let me just say, this could be happening in the world all around us. And to some extent, there are definitely areas where this is. And yet, we are required to step up in our personal strength, in our heart, in our light, into our personal responsibility. It's even the words you're choosing to say or choosing not to say that's part of this responsibility. That's part of that Mercury energy. How are you being called to speak up in the world? Now, that's going to affect different people in very different ways because this is all hitting our charts in very different places. So some people may be required to show up, speak out, in regards to their worth. And other people may be required to show up, speak in regards to their health. That may be a more mental thing. Some may be required just to speak, just to say what's been going on, because what they have to share can bring so much wonderful information. So your work is tuning into what your responsibility is in this. Now, let me also add, I know this isn't like giving it the credit to this astro. It is so intense. It is so heavy. It may knock you out. We came home today and both passed out because we were just so exhausted from the heaviness. That's part of the responsibility too. Let yourself rest. Let the transformation move you. A lot of times the universe is like, oh my God, that brain action is getting too much in the way. Sleep. Let us work on you. Beep, 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 beep. Watch your dreams. See what comes up in them because they may give you some hints, especially if you are feeling so exhausted. Now, two other pieces are part of this. We have Ceres hanging out here. Now, Ceres is reminding us of the North Node in Cancer. Ceres represents mother energy. It can represent our mother. It can represent divine mother. It can represent how we mother ourselves. It can also represent you as a mother to your own children. But I'm bringing it back to the responsibility of how you mother yourself. That's a big lesson. How are you showing up? How are you mothering yourself? How are you nurturing yourself? This is all 22 degrees. Master level degree, third level revolution, evolution. There will be triggers. Triggers will be here. It will be part of the fears that we have to face. But it's also those fears, they're part of the ultimate empowerment process, and they're how we show up for them we're being encouraged to be nurturing and compassionate for ourselves. That doesn't mean that the divine mother is like, yeah, stick your head in the sand and ostrich. That's not the calling at this time, like I just said. But just be aware how you can be compassionate and encouraging to yourself, like the divine mother is and would be. Finally, last thing I want to mention is that this doesn't just end. It's not just like 8:58. Hooray! We survived! Although there is that to some extent. Tomorrow, the 13th, of course, the sun is moving through and will roll over these energies as well, enlightening it. One of the things I always say about planets, if you have one planet, it's like a noisy child. You get 2 planets going, and it's like, oh my god, how many children are there? So here at this point, we've got like basically 4 planets, just all right on top of each other, plus the South Node and Jupiter hanging out in the sign. Like, this is holy stellium going on in Capricorn. Like, it's nuts. But it's also like, are you getting the lesson? This is a master level lesson. Are you getting the lesson? How are you establishing a new foundation in your life from this point, from this quantum leap? So it's important. Does this mean that you need to step up and be like, I will be president? No, that's not well, unless it's your calling. You know, I can't say that that's not your calling. But be aware what your soul is saying. Hey, this is where you step up. Hey, this is where you step up. Listen for that, because this is important. So I'm going to leave it here. Maybe one quick replay through the cards. Integration. This is a beautiful card. It's an integration of our light and our darkness. It is facing those shadows and still rising in the love. And if you've been listening to me, that's one of the things that I've been saying will bring us through this astrological eye of a needle energy. Our mind may be creating some scary situations. We have to be aware of our conditioning around them. And when we feel powerless, part of the lesson is, no, you're never powerless. You're always called to something, and it's always listening in to what your personal responsibility is. All right, so I will see you on the flip side of this. Besides that, take it easy on yourself, moment by moment. The better it gets, the better it gets, including in this astro. You have the power, and there is more than enough love in the world for you. Namaste.